of attack. The United States, true to its word, supported the defense of Israel.
Just one more. So is this a just-in-case situation, or is this military support indispensable? Because you've got the F-35s, F-22s, F-18s, 16s, 15s, the warships, the air defense systems, the troops, everything, like, the whole 9 yards. Is this just in case or indispensable?
Well, again, I'd go back to what I said at the top. And I think it's important not to look at the individual parts, but look at what it is that we're trying to do here, which is deter a wider regional conflict, prevent a regional war in a very tense Middle East, with Iran threatening to retaliate and to use potentially overwhelming force. And we, again, have been very clear in our commitment to aid in the defense of Israel. No one wants to see escalation. No one wants to see a wider regional conflict. So, hopefully we don't find ourselves in a situation of having to employ those capabilities. But if we need to in the defense of Israel, we will. And so just leave it there. Charlie.
Yes, whatever term we want to use in terms of accelerating, it's still going to take a while, 7 to 10 days. I know you want to talk about timelines, but perhaps more urgently, and something that's already in the neighborhood, is the submarine. The fact that it was announced, what does it bring to this fight?
It's a nuclear-powered guided missile submarine. Provides, again, additional capabilities to the commanders, the U.S. commanders in the region, in terms of not only supporting the defense of Israel, but also protecting our forces. And again, the message here is deterring potential aggression. It's not unprecedented that we will highlight the movement of submarines. But again, it's important to look at this in the context of the broader U.S. military force posture in the region, which is to help protect our forces, support the defense of Israel, and again, deter aggression and aim to de-escalate the situation.
Capable of carrying as many as 175 Tomahawk cruise missiles?
Look, the United States military is the most powerful in the world. We have these capabilities, and again, I'm not going to belabor the point, but the goal here is to de-escalate the situation and ensure that we can support the defense of Israel should we need to do that. Janie.
Thank you, General. Two questions. On the establishment of the strategic command, does the Pentagon support the completion of the establishment of the South Korean military strategic command? And I have another. And can we expect the establishment of the U.S. ROK, integrated strategic command?
Well, certainly that's a decision for the Republic of Korea to make, to determine whether or not they stand up a strategic command. As it relates to that new organization, as I understand it, it will primarily interact with U.S. Forces Korea, which is how the U.S. military interacts with the Republic of Korea. But as you know, we are close allies, and we will continue to work together very closely when it comes to the defense of the peninsula and broader regional security and stability throughout the Indo-Pacific.
One more. North Korea attended Russia's advanced weapons exhibition, and Iran and China also are participating in this exhibition. What are your concerns about the expansion of arms cooperation between North Korea and Russia, and the cooperation between Iran and China with Russia?
Well, look, I'm not going to comment on the weapons expo per se, but we, again, closely monitor these relationships and do have concerns, particularly as it relates to Russia, as it seeks to procure arms and munitions from these countries to support its war against Ukraine. So it's something that we're going to continue to keep a close eye on. Yes, sir.
Thank you, General. Two questions on Syria. There were reports about a drone attack on the Iranian-backed groups in Syria, which a war monitor reported that 5 members of this pro-Iranian militia killed in Deir al-Zur this Sunday. Were the U.S. engaged in this?
I don't have anything on that.
On the same issue, I'm sure you're following the conflicts between Syrian Democratic Forces and the Iranian-backed groups in Syria. So what's the Pentagon position on this? What's your comment on that? And does the U.S. gives any support to the Syrian Democratic Forces in their fight against the Iranian-backed groups in Syria?
Look, the U.S. Forces that are in Syria, and our focus in Syria is on the enduring defeat of ISIS, and that will continue to remain our focus. As you know, the SDF have been good partners in that fight, essential partners in that fight, and that continues to be the basis for our relationship and our cooperation with the SDF.
Their fight with the Iranian-backed groups in Syria, they derailed their focus on the ISIS mission. So do you concern when the Syrian regime forces and also the Iranian-backed forces are fighting with your partners, this will affect your mission in Syria?
Well, look, I mean, Syria, given the fact that much of it is essentially considered ungoverned space, you know, for many years now, which is what has enabled groups like ISIS to foment, continues to be a challenge. But the U.S. presence in Syria and our focus in Syria is on the enduring defeat of ISIS, and so that will continue to remain our focus. Let me go back to Joe.
Thank you, General Ryder. When you say we're moving assets to the region to defend Israel, could you explain to us that using the term defend Israel, does it mean like the mission or the U.S. role in the region would be intercepting the incoming missiles or maybe taking offensive actions? Could you emphasize on that?
Yeah, look, it hasn't changed since Hamas's attack on October 7th in terms of the role that the United States has played in supporting the defense of Israel. We are not looking, the United States is not looking to engage in offensive operations and again, potentially spark a wider regional conflict. Our focus is on de-escalating tensions, and that's been a focus ever since Hamas brutally killed 1,200 Israeli citizens and took over 250 hostages. And so we will continue to stay very focused on that. But as what you saw on April 13th, when Iran conducted its missile and drone attack against Israel, demonstrated the types of activities that Iran is considering. And we've been very clear that our support for the defense of Israel will be ironclad. And so we need to be prepared to respond to a variety of contingencies, which requires a variety of capabilities. And because the United States military possesses those types of capabilities, and more importantly, our service members are the best in the world, we will continue to stay focused on not only, again, protecting our forces, but supporting our commitment to help in the defense of Israel.
Quick follow-up. Does the Pentagon believe that the deterrence is working in the region?
So far, Joe, what I would tell you is that it's our assessment that the conflict between Israel and Hamas has been contained to Gaza. Certainly, that's not to say that there are not incredible tensions in the region. And that the situation right now in the Middle East is very serious, which is why we're taking it so seriously, which is why Secretary Austin has ordered additional capabilities into the region. Thank you. Joe.
Thanks. Yesterday, the White House said that an Iranian attack or retaliation could come within days or this week. And then, so one, do you share this assessment? Then two, when asked if Iran or some of its proxies, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, have moved any of their assets or put certain rockets, missiles, drones into position, or if they've moved those into position to attack, we refer to the Pentagon. So have you guys seen any movement?
Yeah, on your second question, I'm just not going to get into intelligence on what we may be seeing. On your first question, is an attack possible this week? That's certainly possible. The bottom line is, I'm not going to speculate or try to guess when they might attack, other than to say we need to take it seriously, and we are doing that. And so we will be prepared and are prepared.
Second, on the attacks on U.S. troops, we've seen several in the last few weeks, but in two separate attacks, troops have been injured or wounded. We have not seen a U.S. response. Is part of the reasoning for that because of the tense situation in the Middle East that you've mentioned during this briefing, or as the U.S. decided not to respond to these?
Yeah, look, I'll repeat what Secretary Austin said during his press briefing last week, which is that we won't tolerate attacks against our forces, and we'll take all necessary steps to protect our forces. But in terms of a response, as always, we will respond in a time and manner of our choosing, and I'll just leave it at that.
Is it? I mean, is the situation, current situation, is that being taken into account by the department?
Look, I'm not going to have anything to provide beyond what I just said. Carla.
Thanks, Pat. Is USS Georgia in CENTCOM now?
It is not.
Okay, and then on the attacks in Syria, on Rubalin landing zone, who is responsible for those attacks? So
we assess that it was conducted by Iranian-backed militia, but we're still digging into the specifics of that. So thank you. Let me go to the phone here real quick. Chris Gordon, Air and Space.
Thanks, Pat. Abraham Lincoln is headed to CENTCOM from the Pacific. The Theodore Roosevelt was previously in the Indo-Pacific. The flare-up in the Middle East has now gone on in some form for most of a year. Is the DoD appropriately postured for tensions in the Pacific and the Middle East over the long term? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. The bottom line is yes. The thing about the U.S. military, as you're seeing this week, is that we have the ability to surge forces and capabilities to where we need them when we need them. The Indo-Pacific Command continues to be our priority theater, and that is indicative of the number of forces that we have that are located within the region. And so, again, we're going to move forces where we need them when we need them. But I can tell you and be rest assured that the Indo-Pacific has a significant number of U.S. forces to support our commitments toward that end. Thank you. Let me go to Heather, USNI.
A similar question, but focus on the Middle East. With the fact that the TR is going to take at least probably around 2 weeks to get to the Middle East, does the United States feel confident with the amount of resources that they have in the Middle East if Iran were to attack before TR gets there?
Do you mean the Abraham?
Sorry. Yes, Abraham.
I mean, again, we already maintain a significant amount of capabilities within the U.S. Central Command and European Command regions. And so these additive capabilities will just make that more robust. Okay, let me come back to the room. Oren.
Why isn't the USS Georgia in CENTCOM yet? It was in the Med, so it's certainly within range to have gotten to CENTCOM already.
I'm not going to get into the specifics of its location and timelines. Again, it has been ordered to the Central Command area of responsibility. Sir.
Thank you so much, General. I have a question on Afghanistan. In 2 days from now, it's going to be the 3rd anniversary of a U.S. complete withdrawal from Afghanistan and the fall of a previous government. General, what is the assessment of Pentagon after 3 years over Afghanistan? Is the ISIS-K and also the Taliban or some faction of the Taliban like Haqqanis are a threat to the national security of the United States or not?
So just to make sure I clarify, you're asking about the terrorist threat emanating from Afghanistan? Well, it's definitely something that we continue to keep a close eye on. You have various terrorist groups which operate in and around Afghanistan, to include ISIS-K. And so we maintain a variety of capabilities to include over-the-horizon capabilities should we need to do that. But I think most importantly is we'll continue to work with our partners in the region when it comes to addressing terrorism through our mutual counterterrorism efforts.
One question. So the Israeli officials said that they will attack inside Iran if Iran does any retaliate any form and way. So does the United States support that the Israeli will attack inside Iran if Iran does anything?
Well, look, again, I don't want to get into hypotheticals at this stage. Right now, our focus is on de-escalating tensions in the region. So
any progress on de-escalating?
There hasn't been a conflict yet, so we'll stay after it. All right, sir.
Thank you, sir. The counterterrorism chief of United Nations said that Europe is facing a big threat from ISIS-K. He also mentioned that the same group was involved in terrorizing the Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna last week. All these terrorists are based in Afghanistan. Is it a concern? Because they're also involved in the attacks on Pakistani security forces. What kind of measures are being taken to prevent the expansion of this terror group?
Yeah, well, I mean, as evidenced by the global coalition to defeat ISIS, it does remain a threat. And you've seen the United States work very closely with many nations around the world to address ISIS, whether it's in Europe, Asia, and also, as you know, you've seen in Iraq and Syria. And there's also manifestations of ISIS in the African continent. So we'll continue to work with our partners and allies around the world to address the ISIS threat wherever we see it.
The Pakistani security forces arrested a senior Al-Qaeda leader recently moved from Afghanistan to Pakistan. Pakistani investigators claimed that this terrorist was a close associate of its founder, Osama bin Laden. Is it a concern that Al-Qaeda is also gaining strength in Afghanistan?
Al-Qaeda, as you know, has been greatly diminished over the years, but is not gone. And so, again, similarly to ISIS-K and other groups that present a potential security threat to the United States and our allies and partners, will continue to stay very focused on addressing that threat. Let me take just another one from the phone here. Jared from Al Monitor.
Hi, Pat. It seems Iran and Hezbollah, if they are going to, to stage a retaliation, they obviously haven't done so yet. Wondering if you can attribute that to anything. I mean, does the department have any reason to believe that this is a part of their retaliation, or that the plus-ups of assets, U.S. assets in the region, may be causing some second thoughts there? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. I mean, that's really a question for Iran to answer. I can tell you again what our focus is and on what we're doing, and it's working very hard with our partners in the interagency and our regional partners to de-escalate the situation and deter potential aggression. Okay, take a couple more. Let me get to Louis.
Thank you. Blast from the past here, JLOT's question. There was some aid that was awaiting transport into the Gaza area before the JLOT's mission ended. Maybe I'm premature in saying it's ended. Has that aid been delivered, and what is the status of the coordination cell if that is the case?
So what I'm tracking, Louis, right now is that the motor vessel Cape Trinity has approximately 6 million pounds of aid on it, currently in Cyprus awaiting movement to Ashdod. So that, as we've said before, that that vessel or some of those vessels would participate in helping to deliver some of the final aid from Cyprus into Israel en route to Gaza. So
does that mean that there is more aid still in Cyprus,
no.
Or is this is it?
No,
this is the last.
My understanding is that. Now, of course, I would commend you to talk to USAID about the broader humanitarian aid deliveries, but as I understand it, that's the remainder of the aid.
And then what happens now with the U.S. coordination cell under General Frank that was there? Does it still remain active? Will it continue to enable a different kind of maritime corridor?
Yeah, so my understanding is that CENTCOM will continue to support in an advisory capacity some of the best practices that were developed during the JLOTS operation, to include the Convoy Management Board as a way to help ensure that things are being moved. But certainly from a DoD U.S. military standpoint, I mean, the vast majority of that has now relocated or is in the process of relocating to the States because, of course, JLOTS has stood down. Okay, thanks. Let me try to get to a couple other folks here that I haven't got to. Jim.
General, just a quick question on Ukraine. Can you give a laydown on what the U.S. thinking is on the offensive that the Ukrainians have launched? And do you think is that meant to be a permanent sort of operation, or is that a raid?
Yeah, Jim. So On that, I mean, that's really something for the Ukrainians to talk to. I'd refer you to them to talk about their operations. You know, we are in contact with our Ukrainian counterparts to get additional details in terms of their objectives as it relates to their operation, but I don't have anything beyond that. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, General Pat. So on an al-Assad airbase in Iraq, as you know, the base has been targeted multiple times by Iranian proxies since last year and resulted in like damages and harm to U.S. personnel. So does the base have sophisticated air system and capabilities to intercept the missiles and drones?
So as I'm sure you can appreciate, I won't go into the specifics of exactly what we have in terms of air defense or facility defense capabilities, other than to say that that's something we take incredibly seriously and are constantly assessing those capabilities and ensuring that we're doing everything we can to protect our forces. That's not to say, though, and history has shown this, that our forces often operate in harm's way and do in dangerous places, and that's why they are trained. That's why we ask them to serve in uniform, and as evidenced by their performance, they do brilliant and important work every single day in defense of our nation. So we're going to do everything we can to ensure that they have the best when it comes to force protection.
One more, if you don't mind. Have your diplomatic efforts to persuade or stop Iran from launching strikes had any result? I mean, did you receive any message from Iran directly or indirectly?
Yeah, I don't have anything to provide on that.
The question he had, you said the Secretary takes every possible step. He will take every possible, Secretary Austin will take every possible step to defend Israel. Does that include taking offensive strikes against Iran?
Look, again, we are focused on supporting the defense of Israel, de-escalating the situation, and preventing a broader conflict. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. Rule what out?
Taking strikes against Iran.
You're saying the U.S. taking preemptive strikes?
If Israel is attacked in a major
So you're getting into hypotheticals. You started it with if, and I'm going to not get into hypotheticals. So there you go. Thanks. Brad. I think we're being pretty clear, Lucas. We're sending significant, I'm being very clear to Lucas and Iran that we are sending significant capabilities in the region to protect our forces and support the defense of Israel and respond to a wide variety of contingencies. If you look at the strategic goal here, it's to de-escalate the situation and prevent a wider regional war. And that requires diplomacy, it requires military force presence, and it requires being smart about how we go about doing this. We're not seeking conflict. We don't want conflict, but we're going to do what we need to do to support the defense of Israel and support the protection of our forces. But again, the underlying message here is we're working to de-escalate tensions. No one wants a wider war. Brad.
So on Ukraine, can you say if Russia has redeployed troops from the front lines of eastern Ukraine to defend its borders in Kursk? And if so, is it a significant number of troops?
Yeah, I don't have anything to provide on that from the podium here, Brad. You know, again, I'd refer you to the Russian MOD. It's something that we're keeping an eye on. You know, our focus at the end of the day when it comes to Ukraine is supporting Ukraine and its ability to defend its sovereign territory and to take back sovereign territory within Ukraine. Thanks. Time for just a couple more to go. Charlie, and then I'll come to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, General. Changing the topic entirely, we're following the story about this Defense Department contractor who's arrested with a ton of classified documents stolen from this building. Could you shed some light on that?
Seen the press reports on that, but I need to refer you to the Department of Justice for any questions on that.
You can't tell me how serious this breach is.
Yeah, I really just don't have anything to provide from here. I'd have to refer you to DOJ. Okay. Last question. Yes, sir.
General, you mentioned several times your message that you are looking to de-escalate the tensions in the region. So my question, what we are seeing right now with the militaries increasing in several parties, do you believe the diplomatic solution is still possible? Do you think that the parties were listening? And what's your message to them?
You know, look, there is always time for diplomacy to work, and that will continue to be the main effort, certainly for the United States government, in terms of working to de-escalate the situation, implement a ceasefire, and get the hostages home. So as long as there's hope, and there is, we'll continue to stay focused toward that end. And then, I'm sorry, your second question?
My second question is going to be another topic, please, if you would mind. There is some reports claiming that the weapon that being used to attack Al-Tabi'in school in Gaza recently was a U.S. bomb, a U.S.-made bomb. Do you confirm that, General? And do you believe that Israel is still using the U.S. weapons according to U.S. and international law?
Yeah, when it comes to Israeli employment of munitions, I'd have to refer to them. I don't have any information to provide. In terms of civilian casualties, as I highlighted at the top, this is something that we continue to take very seriously. It's something that Secretary Austin has discussed with his Israeli counterpart every single time they talk, highlighting the importance and the moral imperative and the strategic imperative of ensuring that civilian safety and harm mitigation is taken into account in conducting operations. The bottom line is, way too many civilians have died during this conflict, both Palestinian and Israelis. And so it's incredibly important that Israel continue to conduct its operations in a way, plan its operations in a way that is taking civilian safety into account. That's not to say, though, that Hamas doesn't bear responsibility as well in the fact that they conduct their operations and embed their forces amongst the civilian population in places like schools, mosques, hospitals, making it incredibly difficult for Israel to conduct its operations in these areas. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Just a quick
Yeah.
clarification on the Louis question. That 6 million pounds that's on the, I think, Cape Trinity, is that part of that 20 million tons that you all keep talking about, or is that in addition to it?
I believe the aid that was delivered previously,
Correct.
This would be in addition
Okay, so
to.
this is in addition to that. Okay.
Correct. Correct. All right. Thank you very much, everybody.